Hello, I'm Rojo, and today I'm going to be looking at Freak of Freaks versus KT Game 1 from Week 10. Because I haven't really been keeping up with the LCK, and these are two relatively close teams in the standings. I don't know necessarily if they are actually that close in their ability or how they've been doing generally, but in the standings they're relatively close, so I figured that without going through the whole game beforehand, I wanted to see, I want to do a kind of first look uh, and do it this way. So, of course, first things first, draft. So, if we look at the champions that are on a Freak of Freaks, unfortunately, the video doesn't go past, doesn't start at the start of draft, which is whatever. We'll just do it this way. So these are the final champion positions. Crocodile versus Man of the Future. Renekton is a very aggressive laner, but I don't know how aggressive he's going to get to be against a ranged matchup. I suppose it probably is more skill based. And once Renekton hits 6, he actually might have some kill pressure on the Jace. But I would imagine it's going to be mostly Jace controlled, and Renekton's going to have pretty bad time, especially once we're past levels 13, 14. And probably even earlier than that, especially if he falls behind, which is the nature of the champion, obviously. He's fairly feast or famine. The jungle matchup is Graves versus Volibear. Volibear is I guess he's a tank jungler. It's weird because he doesn't really seem like he's a tank jungler, but he is a tank jungler. He does a fairly good amount of damage, but um, the big issue is that he doesn't necessarily scale. He doesn't really provide too much to his team after a certain point. His mid game is really whatever because he doesn't really get items. Not really defensive, so when you have champions like Jace and like Caitlyn, you're not really providing too much for them except for maybe the threat of jumping back onto someone who's on top of them already, which isn't necessarily that great. It is, I guess, a front line, the only front line on this team, really. I guess you could maybe consider Silas, but it's not really what I wouldn't consider him a front line. And so he does provide some frontline offense or defense, but I don't know if that's necessarily enough to warrant him being picked in this spot. Graves is going to fairly hard outscale him, which may not necessarily be important. Graves' synergy with Renekton isn't super great because Renekton would love to be snowballed. I don't know if Graves is ever going to have the opportunity to do that unless Jace is really screwing up, but we'll see. Generally, Volibear's responsibility is probably going to be to match Graves' position and then move around the map with him, kind of matching his spots, preventing successful ganks, countering when he can, and just keeping Graves in check. Even though Graves generally wants to actually farm, which means that Volibear's job is actually even easier because Graves already wants to just not gank and farm, but he has the Renekton lane that he has to deal with and want to snowball generally. Gragas doesn't really scale super hard, and obviously the Ezreal can scale decently, or doesn't scale decently, it scales very well, but the issue being, how are you going to actually make Graves snowball these two, really? Because he needs to. You would like for Renekton to be snowballed. I would imagine you'd like for Gragas to be snowballed. The Ezreal's whatever, and Karma obviously doesn't necessarily need assistance. So Volibear, while it almost feels like their roles are reversed in that if Graves were here, he'd be doing exactly what he would want to do anyway, right? He'd be farming and then looking to counter and match to prevent Volibear from doing anything. Whereas the case is now the opposite, and Volibear is pretty reliant on his team. I guess he can also gank vulnerable lanes if he wants to, but I don't actually think he's necessarily in need of doing that. I feel like, and I actually believe that I did actually check the order for the draft. I obviously can't show it, and I don't remember it exactly, but I do believe that the solo laners were picked for KT after, which means they had to counter pick, and I frankly believe that Silas and Jace are better than their counterparts. So it almost feels like Volibear's play pattern isn't going to be expressed here, and he's going to be more focusing on just farming and then doing what he can to prevent Graves from doing what he wants to do. If the game goes neutral, then KT are in a pretty good spot, I would imagine. Mid lane matchup is weird. Gragas is a very interesting choice, not necessarily seen in the meta. Frankly, he was picked fairly late. I think he was picked here in the second phase. He's a fairly versatile champion. It's clear that they didn't necessarily have a good plan for what happens when they lose Zoe Oriana, and then they also banned away the Twisted Fate and the Azir for themselves. So I don't know if that's due to champion pool issues by Fly or what, but he's on Gragas now, and I don't think that it's that great in this position. It does provide disruption, and I suppose you can argue that it's going to be decent on dives, but really trying to dive with these three champions, I don't know. And then of course the Silas. I mean, he's just gonna be a big problem. Karma's not gonna have a fun time. Probably gonna be able to solo. He's probably gonna be able to be in a side lane, um, pretty much uncontested after a certain point. I guess. No, Renekton might be able to match him for a bit, but I feel like the side lanes are very much in the favor of KT. And then the bottom lane matchup is I would say it's probably supposed to be Caitlyn flavored, but Karma gives me pause every time I see her because she can be very annoying and create early pressure that other champions would not be able to deal with. I think that Caitlyn will be fine in the matchup at worst. At absolute worst, it'll be perfectly neutral. But I would imagine that generally she's going to do a good do a good amount of work onto the Freaker Freaks bottom lane. So what's the general strategies that we're looking at for KT? I think I mentioned that seems like it's going to be fairly clear 1-3-1. I'm not entirely sure what a Freaker Freaks are looking to do. I mean, it team fight, I guess, but I'm not sure when they want to team fight because the items seem weird. I actually don't really know what items Gragas is going to be building in the mid lane. Maybe a Rod of Ages or something. I actually, this is going to be entirely new to me, especially within this last year. I don't think we've seen Gragas at all in a solo lane, or at least in a major region. Freaker Freaks probably want to fight fairly early on, and KT want to play it so that they don't necessarily have to fight. So they want to use the 1-3-1 to pressure the side lanes while Freaker Freaks are getting objectives that KT are not necessarily willing to contest at the exact moment. And even on the idea that Freaker Freaks want to fight in the mid game, I honestly don't think that KT are that bad in the mid game. I mean, I don't actually know what the math looks like on Caitlyn, since her build path has been more adjusted towards double AD item into an attack speed item. I believe the idea is that her trough isn't as bad mid game wise, but Silas on one item is strong, Jace on one item is pretty strong. So, I mean, Caitlyn doesn't. I mean, ideally she just wants to fight at 6 items, but 1 item and 2 item Caitlyn's probably fine to fight. So even in the case that a Freak of Freaks want to fight mid game, I don't think that's actually even that beneficial to them either. So I'm not entirely sure what their winning condition is for this composition. It doesn't feel like they made one. Because even if you argue that they want to dive, they don't necessarily have strong, super great diving champions. I guess Karma's actually not bad, but maybe I'm trying to convince myself. Maybe it's actually not that bad. They're not ideal diving champions. Let's say that. I wouldn't pick Graves, so I start diving towers. Is the thinking. I can. Probably not terrible. It's probably decent in some spots. But I don't think that's what I want to do with that pick. But it would be something I would want to do with the Renekton. It probably is something I want to do with the Gragas. Probably not what I want to do with Ezreal. It's iffy. It's really weird, and I don't know. I mean, the best I can think of is maybe a Freak of Freaks go get a pretty massive early lead. I think that's their best bet. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. Because I think that KT just have so much value. Just they can fight in the mid game. They can fight. They can just wait it out. If they get an early dragon or two, or if the dragons go untouched for a while, as is the case in a lot of LCK games, and generally speaking, I don't know if the priority is going to be there for Freak of Freaks to start taking those dragons anyway. So we'll see how that goes. Gragas probably will be pretty decent in the early game, but then once Silas has his abilities, all of his abilities, and can start trading fairly easily, he will have control over that lane. So, we'll see how this goes. Long review time. Okay. So I did see this. This is going to be interesting. 5-man down bottom. The Bard is kind of... He did set down a ward on the Dragon Pit for some reason. Tucson is on a fairly good angle, and no one dies yet. So Mystic gets the first blood on the Jace. Short timer anyway, so it doesn't really change anything. Everyone's going to be able to get to their lanes just fine. But the things that we need to take stock of course, are the flashes that were used by all of these people. So that's 5 flashes down.
Everyone on the side of Afrika, though, they start off with an assist.
So this is an experience lead as well as an early gold lead for Afrika. So they should be feeling pretty good. This is what I was talking about. They needed a lead in order to actually win this game, and they're already off to a really good start on this. This always, like, I wonder how this actually plays. I feel like a lot of Korean players play like this, with a fairly specific game size on their screen. I'm not entirely sure the reason. Maybe it's because the screens for the LCK stage are a lot bigger than what they're used to. It's probably actually the case, but and then they can kind of control the... It's more uniform this way. Okay, so Arma's doing that thing. Ezreal got a Sapphire Crystal, so it's not really super strong combat stats, but aiming and Tucson are going to have a fairly bad time, as is the Renekton, regardless of the assist that he got. because he didn't actually get any
He's gonna make his
extra
way
assistance, and
over
then you
now
see
to
how
his
this
blue
goes.
side jungle. Volibear on the flip side just
Smeb
continuing
is really
to
taking it
farm
to
up as it
Keen.
stands.
Also, I didn't really mention this. There was something that I saw when I was earlier on. I was looking at this game, the very like early sections of this, and I noticed that Graves went red into an invade. He actually ends up getting the Gromp, but he doesn't get anything else. And I had a question of how he was going to play this. I think his path is actually probably this is probably the optimal path. So what he's doing, so he goes red into blue side. He ends up getting the Gromp, and he uses the mid lane priority that Gragas creates, gets his blue, does Gromp, does Wolves, does Scuttle on spawn, or probably does blue. I actually don't know the timing exactly, but uh, I would imagine it's maybe he has enough. Probably not. He's probably gonna do blue and then go to the Scuttle Crab. He should probably actually be able to get double Scuttle here, so this is gonna be very good. So the invade isn't. The invade ends up getting him the double Scuttle. I don't actually know if it's or it results in a double Scuttle. I don't know if it was necessary to get the double Scuttle. I think that it was probably going to be the case no matter what. Um, but this is just really efficient for Graves. He's going to be able to go Scuttle. I guess he might beeline it down to Scuttle and then do Krugs, Raptors, Wolves, Gromp, Recall, and then go back onto the map. Uh, although this isn't. Maybe he doesn't even bother with that, and he just says, "Okay, get the crab, do Gromp, Wolves, maybe path down to the crab later on, depending on how things are going after that, and then turn around to his bottom side camps." Uh, the timing is always interesting to me, but Volibear actually isn't really behind at all. He did blue wolves. He actually skipped the Raptors because of Fly being able to put down a ward, and then he does red into Krugs. He might actually still be looking for the topside Scuttle, so there might actually be a fight. And if that is the case, does he actually look for topside Scuttle here? I don't know if he actually wants to find Graves. But he does have priority thanks to the Jace. So he actually might still be, yeah, he might go for topside Scuttle. Graves probably just does blue Gromp, Wolves, Raptors. Nah, yeah. Is that greedy? That might be greedy. Or he might just contest the Scuttle Crab anyway, because you have the mid laner who's open. And you could still have the Renekton come down with the Jace. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what they choose to do.
Starting over on his blue buff. This will be very interesting to watch Fly here on Gragas in mid lane. Now remember, Gragas a couple of patches ago did get his abilities buffed in terms of damage.
Wow, okay. So Volibear actually is seeding topside Scuttle. Moving down to the bottom side Scuttle. Probably because it's more risk averse, right? So this is probably the less risky play. It's possible for him to get the topside Scuttle, but if he loses topside Scuttle, he's probably going to be in a bad spot, and he probably won't be able to get bottom side. So if he contests the topside Scuttle, he might end up losing bottom side, so he'll just go for the even trade rather than going for a potential fight. Okay. And I think Graves is also playing at risk averse, where he doesn't go. I mean, there's nothing. It's not up, so you'd be wasting 7 seconds if he goes over there. And I was actually wondering if he was how the timing on how quickly he can do the blue buff from the HP that he had on the screen. But I mean, obviously he was going to be able to do it before the spawn. I was just wondering how close it was going to be. But then he's going to be able to get the Gromp. He might immediately go to the Crab and then move back to Wolves. This is interesting. It was actually very interesting.
So I thought
I wonder who's actually getting the better of this. So there's a good trade by the Renekton. Very hit and run style is how Renekton is going to be able to get anything off. So yeah, he does Gromp into Scuttle.
Dread just gonna clear the Scuttle Crab. This is a very ineffective jungle path by Dread. He's sort of all over the place, and he's not getting any of his really key camps respawned. He's gonna maybe go for a gank.
Now he's looking for a gank here. So this is, I mean, as Ellis is mentioning, it feels weird, right? I mean, the invade was already kind of suspect, but I was wondering how he can make the best of it. It honestly seems like the best choice would be to just try to do a full clear as Graves and then not deal with an attempted invade. Also, from this position, the bottom lane is kind of vulnerable, and Graves is also wasting time. Instead of getting at the Raptors, he's in mid lane. I don't even know if this is doable. I guess they might be able to get this. It looks like an empowered auto was already used on those, so that's not available. Or maybe it was just a Q. It was an empowered auto.
Kuro really has to blunder for this to work.
Yeah, Kuro doesn't end up getting this. This is... Oh, this is alright. Yep. Alright, yep. So so Volibear gets a kill. Very interesting play. Feel like Graves... I mean, coming here is fine, because, I mean, your whole team's already here, so you may as well try to get something. If you can. Ends up getting an assist there. They don't really get anything after this. Yeah, so I mean, it was an interesting path by the Graves, but I was very curious as to how that is optimally supposed to go for him, if he even thought about how that goes optimally for him. Okay. Nothing too, I mean, it's a little weird because it was a very aggressive set of TPs from basically everyone. But actually, wait. Yeah, Renekton was able to call. Did he just not care? Oh no, he recalled. He just recalled faster. Okay. So Renekton's already in the top lane, trying to shove in the wave, get a experienced lead against the Jace, which is going to be very important. Graves' camps are all screwed up now, by the way, because of what he did. Because now he's going to want to clear the wolves. Wait, why is he going to wolves? Because now this whole side is going to be like really wonky on the blue side, and now we're already fighting again. All right, cool. Let me just pause that for a second. Just talk about the Graves. Because he can go Rugs, Raptors, Wolves. By the time he's already done with all of that, the Gromp is probably up, and then he can look for something top lane or mid. Also, from this position at 5 minutes, he would also be on the bottom side of the map, which means he could potentially impact the Infernal Dragon if it is contested, or if it's something that his team is interested in looking for, or if the bottom lane isn't doing this. I'm not entirely sure why they had a staggered back. So they have a staggered back, and Ezreal greeds for another wave for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, huh?
Yeah. Okay. It's gonna avoid the trap. Tries to walk forward.
He's dead.
And, well, now he's gonna get netted.
Wow.
Yeah. Had used his arcane shift.
So that was very greedy, obviously.
How about another kill? Here we go. No, that's not. No.
You know what I'm thinking?
And I mean, you're looking at it, right? You're looking at this really weird jungle path. It didn't have to be this bad, but it's become this bad. I mean, Volibear isn't actually that pulling ahead anyway, because he was messing with Fly instead of clearing camps.
Okay, it's gonna.
Let me actually look what he did.
Renekton.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea why he's trying to look for Fly there. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And there's almost no way that he kill him
Again, huh?
Yeah.
from that
He's
spot.
gonna avoid the trap.
His flash is coming up very soon. I mean, by the time Bono's already messing with this, he should just be on the Raptors, killing it very quickly, and then going into Krugs,
man.
which is something that he should be more than happy to do, and he's very quick at doing. So I'm not sure why, but I mean the Graves path is weird because the Gromp is the highest experience yield on his side, but it's not really available to him because he's now moving away from it because he went to Wolves first and then he's going down, and then he's gonna back, and then he's gonna go back to Wolves, or sorry, and then he's gonna go to Gromp, and then maybe the Wolves are up, so maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I was making it seem.
I do wonder if he had just teleported on a further back. Okay, this is.
What? Okay.
Keen, will he live? Yes, he will.
Volibear is very aggressive. He did one camp and then said, "Alright, I'm going top." Keen is already asking for help in the top lane, by the way. Okay.
Follow-up cast from Kuro. He's gonna go down. Will Fly. What a play. Hits level 6 first.
Okay.
For the Gragas. And all right. This is the kind of game we need 2 play-by-plays for.
A little aggressive there.
We don't need too much analysis.
Keen probably knows that he's dead if this wave crashes into his tower.
Back over to you, Valdez.
Yeah, I'll let you take this.
Which is why he's calling for. He called for assistance previously. I don't know if Dread cares.
Wow.
His jungler. So he's going down to red. So I mean, Keen is just super. Never mind. They called it off. Oh, because he hit 6. Okay, fair enough. Hit 6. Bono has been flubbing around and hasn't gotten his camps anyway, so it's whatever.
So, okay, Mystic.
This doesn't need to happen either. I have no idea. Like, it's just needlessly greedy. I understand that he doesn't have teleport, but
step on the trap, but it just doesn't matter. He gets killed anyway.
I feel like you have to take some losses to avoid that. It was actually a pretty good use of his opponent's cask, so kudos.
Doesn't matter.
Giving the Ramus thumbs up.
And Bono's back again after one camp. He said, "Alright, I'm coming back. You thought we were gonna leave. No, and I'm not in range to disable the tower, so goodbye."
I guess we're still trying to keep it interesting here, perhaps. Thank you, Bono.
Okay, Graves is ignoring the Krugs. It's not the worst thing. There are reasons why you would do that, but I don't know if it's necessary in this case. It's much more efficient, obviously, to go downward and then go up because all the camps are in that exact direction. Kuro's actually aggressing on to the blue, so I don't know if that's going to come out to anything. I don't think it will. Dread's doing just fine. Fly is moving to the blue buff so he can hand it over just hunky-dory.
It's very enjoyable.
And Fly.
I guess. I mean, this is why the not going to Krugs is probably not the worst, because it is a little timing sensitive on the blue buff for your mid laner, so you don't necessarily want to delay them that much. I don't know how vital it is in this matchup to have that blue buff though.
Kuro is in a pretty good spot in mid lane. He is very
I'm pretty sure it was already delayed for Fly for some time.
He's dead even on CS. Has a couple of Dark Seal stacks. And it looks like Bono. He's gonna start up the Infernal Dragon, whereas
Dread is on the Rift Herald as KT are on Infernal. I'm pretty sure Infernal is just significantly better in every single way. It's better than the Infernal, or sorry, than the Rift Herald. Now you could argue that the Rift Herald does allow you to snowball, but now he's not even gonna get it. So that's really bad. Really, really bad. They just leashed it for KT. It's actually getting... Alright, cool. Oh! Oh, they got temper faded. So this is really, really bad. So the Infernal's already a problem because KT would have looked for the least amount of fights possible. Every dragon delays your opposing team from being able to the opposing team from forcing you to an objective.
They also have the first Infernal Dragon. Now they're gonna get
But
the
the Herald will allow them to gain an extra lead on top of their fairly small lead already.
Under his belt, he's up 20 farm over Caitlyn, who does have a call, so that will mitigate some of the pressure. The gold advantage is not super big, so this game still is not completely blown open. You can see KT, they grab the Rift Herald. Take a look
As LS is mentioning, it's not over, but it feels really bad.
Graves' ult comes out right in Graves' face, and it's a pretty easy pickup.
Yeah, sets them down. They do have a nice...
I think that with efficient pathing, both junglers should have a pretty good amount of more... what? What? Wait, did we skip over Gromp? What did we do? Or maybe Gromp was not around because he skipped it to go to the thing, and then he went to Raptors, and then going to pathing downward to his bottom lane. That is not in danger at all. It's actually in a completely neutral lane state, so I'm not sure what he is looking to get. Yeah, there's nothing he's going to get here. Not going to get anything. He's actually going to just watch his Karma die and then walk away. Watch. You ready? Wait for it. Hey, Karma didn't die. But he was willing to watch it. What are we aggressing for? What are we looking for on the side of the map right now?
Well, I mean, the thing
What is Dread doing?
At this point in the game,
I'm not saying that there's any real camps to take. So like, it's not... At the end of the day, I mean, he might have been able to get one more camp or something, but... At this point, messing around and looking for vision for his bottom lane isn't the worst.
And if KT wants to just ignore it in favor of waiting for Caitlyn to hit her first core item, waiting for Silas to get a couple more items, etc., they're free to do that. I would imagine Gragas should be able to get to Proto Belt. Hold on, though.
Kuro almost getting a solo kill. I was actually just listening to what Ellis had to say, that Bard in a precarious spot. Ellis talking about how KT are probably in a good spot to wait for items. And I generally agree. I think that they scale better and they're going to have a better 1 and 2 item. Maybe not 1, but certainly 2 items. The Graves comes in a little late, doesn't really get anything, just adds extra damage to the situation. Doesn't really, yeah, I guess it just neutralizes the position. But again, there's really nothing around here, and these, by the way, the topside camps have just been untouched for a fairly long amount of time. That's unfortunate. At a certain point, you have to... I mean, I guess matching the gank by the Volibear is fine. Also, this Herald needs to be spawned, and I'm going to spawn it for mid lane, which is a pretty good place for it. It's not going to charge in time, so that's actually really, really bad, as LS is mentioning. That's awful, actually. So both these junglers are not playing super well. Kind of looking for plays that don't really make sense. Their pathing is a little awkward. I guess I'd have to give the pathing, if I had to give it to one of the junglers who had the better pathing, I'm pretty sure Bono would probably have better pathing, but it's really a whatever situation. The dragon is alive, and that is going to be a big point of contention. I think that KT are allowed to give it up. I don't know if they need to give it up. They are allowed to. Also, by the way, Renekton went Tiamat for some reason. I have no idea why. I don't think that's anywhere close to his highest damage build. He's kind of losing to Smeb right now. He could potentially die if he hits a...
Okay. That is okay. I can't remember the last time Keed made a mistake like that.
That's
He's like, I need it. I need
really
blood.
bad.
And really easily there by Smeb.
He could have popped Dominus in response to the Shock Blast and lived, but he would still be dogged down eventually. So.
I mean, Ellis is mentioning that he could have ulted. The Renekton could have ulted, but I don't know if that... I mean, feel like it probably doesn't change anything in that situation. Probably dead anyway. Maybe... I mean, if he ults and flashes away, maybe he's fine, but I mean, that's a big commitment, and he doesn't have those. And then the Dragon... wait, well, so while that was happening, the Dragon was taken. Right? It looks like KT gave up the Dragon.
Oh boy.
I don't know what Kane is doing right now. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. It's not... it's probably just a result of how the lanes ended up going from this point. Aiming knows that he can't really push the wave in. Mystic can, and so the priority in the bottom lane is gonna be here. Kuro probably says, "All right, I'm just gonna look for some minions. We can just go away from this. We don't have to contest." Even though the one items on everyone is there, and I don't think anyone's really that weak on KT. It's just the way that a Freak of Freaks moved towards this position, allowing this to be pushed in, and then seeding a little bit of mid lane golden experience for the Dragon. Also, because Smeb and Keen were engaged in a fight, they weren't able to add anything to their respective teams. I'm still not entirely sure. I mean, the Tiamat helps Renekton's auto attack, I think. It like smooths a combo, if I'm right. Maybe I'm thinking of a completely different champion that needs that to have a good smooth combo, but
I can't remember the last time he made a mistake like that.
Yeah.
Maybe all the action's getting to him. He's like, I need it. I need blood. And it just gets shut down really easily there by Smeb.
He could have popped Dominus in response to the Shock Blast and lived, but he would still be dogged down eventually. So, okay, you know what? It never ends here.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, they are constantly fighting. It is not really benefiting Mystic because now he has the gold lead has evened up. That Cull is about to finish, which means that Caitlyn is about to come probably ahead of this lane.
I feel like he's really been slowly getting back into things here.
Although no, I guess the 2 kills is gonna keep it even on. It's gonna keep it Mystic favored. Still needs 2. Please don't back. Is she gonna back off this? Okay. She. So because of the well, one because of the call, but also because of the True Shot Barrage being used on the wave, she says, "All right, you're just gonna push it into me. I'm gonna take the
Doesn't even cast the Dominus in response to the Shock Blast, and he just dies.
I'll just take the wave as it comes into me." So, okay, this is happening again. Is this a pro view thing, or is this? I feel like this is how a lot of players play.
He didn't or couldn't use ult?
Again, not important, just
Didn't use ult?
worth mentioning.
Wasn't able to.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dread is messing around with
Dread, gonna get tagged.
this river. Doesn't really matter. I don't know what he's messing around for. Probably should just be on a camp, killing it. The vision here does not matter for KT. KT are just moving to the Rift Herald, and they are probably going to get it for free. There's no real ability for Freak of Freaks to contest it, so again, another big loss for Freak of Freaks. Now, the last use of the Herald was pretty subpar, as it did not get anything out of it, except for some damage on the mid lane turret. I guess they're not going to go for... What are they doing?
Well, you know what they say about mass.
What?
Why didn't they do the Herald?
Simultaneously, I was trying to.
I don't understand why they didn't do the Herald. Yeah, nothing says don't do Herald. What do they see? So they moved.
Get a bit angry and start to play an over.
Bard and Volibear moved. Maybe it was the fight in mid lane that gave them some issue.
Yeah, that's it.
Burly boy.
I am not totally sure how he's able to move with that kind of force.
And because Smeb had to recall or his completed cleaver, yeah.
You know what they say about mass.
So I guess they're taking a more risk averse route. I don't know if Kuro actually needed to trade there. And it's probably arguable that the Jace can stay and pressure for the Herald. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, I guess. The Freak of Freaks were not willing to contest that. And I don't think they should have been. It's very risk averse, which is the way that a lot of Korean teams play. A lot of teams, frankly, around the world play. So yep, he's going the Iceborne. It makes sense. And you're going the Cleaver along with the Muramana build. So this is going to scale as best as Jace can. He's still probably going to be getting lethality items over the course of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the Rift Herald, the thing is right now KT, they're ahead 2,000 gold. They have that.
So the Herald is actually being contested by Afrika. They're not. Yeah, there seems to be no, there's nothing that actually prevents them from getting this. Or actually moves away, and this tower is maybe dead anyway, yep. So that is actually not the first tower. The first tower was claimed by the bottom lane from a Freak of Freaks.
Yeah, we're just farming it out. You'd see that Keen was having a little bit more of a difficult time.
So they do end up getting the Herald. The Herald should probably be put here in the mid lane. I can't imagine any other place where you'd want to put that Herald.
So still struggling to hit those item spikes, and he's not having a fun time in the lane because
Second Herald is usually used for that anyway. Now the lanes are going to be in a kind of whatever state. You just kind of shifted the lanes into 1-3-1 mode, and then everyone's just going to be farming for a little bit. That is not where I would have put that at all. I have no idea what they're thinking. It doesn't even make any sense. It's
top tier too, but realistically, this is going to be the strongest point that a Freak is at for the next several minutes. I mean, Renekton almost has the Black Cleaver complete. You have Oblivion Orb, Protobelt on Gragas. On the flip side, Kuro still doesn't yet.
They do get the charge, the second charge off.
Completed on the Sylas, and there's 3 seconds until Mountain comes up. Now, the thing about
Kuro, they do actually say he does save the tower. But KT end up getting, so they trade for some damage on top side for another dragon here, and Mountain is gonna make it so much more difficult. I mean, Mountain is super good for a Freak of Freaks because it prevents a lot of the extra damage. I mean, this is a burst champion. This is another burst champion that builds a lot of penetration or tries to penetrate. And then anything that can stop Caitlyn's damage is going to be good on as many targets as possible. And then they're just going to be chased down. So this ends up being just the worst end of everything. They lose out on the dragon because they put the Herald up top lane, which forced at least 2 members to be up there. The jungler was topside, so they weren't really contesting anything. As Ellis was mentioning, this is probably around the best time that they could fight for a Freak of Freaks, so it doesn't make sense for them to not go for a 5v5 contest rather than splitting the map and going for plays like this.
I wish you had.
Getting ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I bet you were. Bard Ultimate comes out.
Yeah.
And
We're gonna watch this replay. I mean, end of the day,
is that the Grievous Wounds against Sylas right now can have some value, and even perhaps against Volibear. But the issue is that the dragon just went down.
Okay, well, Keen might die here. We got the smite coming down, but
it doesn't look like a team fight. It's very.
Anyone is pretty great, as he will eventually
So Silas shows off his dominus. So as Ellis was mentioning with the Morellonomicon being completed, it is a good amount of damage when added on top of the Oblivion Orb. It does increase your power, but are you actually looking to do that now when there's no objective that you can contest for? And then they're kind of curled around, and then they're just dying for some. Wait, how did Mystic die? Or what? Oh, because he frontlined and then got shot like 3 times, and then got shock blasted. Nice. Somehow, aiming got that. Not the shock blast, but it's fine. Very, very strange. Very, very split. How did Renekton get caught? I mean, I think we came into replay with Renekton already in a bad spot, but what is going on? Where's he going? He's trying to go mid? Why? For what? Where's he? So he's gonna... So he goes... He's trying to go up the mid lane after the wave kind of went into KT territory. Maybe he was looking for a transfer. Maybe... I mean, no. Fly was moving up. So I have no idea where he's going or why he's in his jungle right now. I mean, end of the day, where he'd be like right here, he'd be in the wave and he'd still be in danger from the goon squad coming in. But huh. I mean, this shouldn't be this difficult, right? You'd imagine. Oh no, because Fly's going towards. How did this happen? I don't know necessarily how this lane got pushed or if it was already going to be pushed in this way, and so it was just a bad situation for Keen in general. But I'm pretty sure generally how you want to play this is you want to have your jungler being able to float around here so that if you need to make this movement or if you need to protect the Renekton on this side, you can do that. But he's actually going towards the top side to hand over the blue for some reason. I mean, also the Gromp is up, but King kind of just like walked into. You never flashed that. I don't think you live. Is there enough value to trade flashes solo lane? Graves actually ends up moving up, so he doesn't hand over the blue buff. He's just now in this weird spot where they've pushed. They decided to try to push up here, and I have no idea why they thought that was gonna work or happen. They end up losing this because they're in a weird spot over here. The last like 3 minutes of macro have been god awful, by the way. By a freaker. KT's response has been perfectly fine.
Either way, they get the kill, and more value going in the pockets of KT.
Well, like KT, as long as they play this calm and collected, they should actually be able to walk away with this one victorious. Their team comp is in a really, really good spot right now.
Was that a zoom in on the McDonald's banner?
You mad?
No, I just gotta pick up a Big Mac set. Oh man. Keen to space checks here.
It was just the more risky route. I'm not sure what the plan is though. What he's looking for to move up here. Maybe just a 5v5. But once this happens, I mean, Afrika needs to. They know they're 4v5. They just leave. I'm not sure why they're trying to go up here and they're curling around this way. And then they're like, all right, well, we can come back around the. I don't know.
See another replay of KT.
Yeah, and it was red buff that got the kill, so I wasn't going crazy
Okay.
or anything like that.
There is a slow push happening on the top side.
I mean, this is one
Don't know.
2-0 and getting a 2-0 win.
Is it actually a slow push?
Make it even possible if they could defeat Damwon that they could actually just not even have a tiebreaker.
Kuro
If it,
seems to not.
if it's
No, no,
a
no.
close,
He just
there
unlocked it
is a
immediately. Never
chance
mind.
that we have a tiebreak,
He was
of
just
course,
he
but
was
again,
doing it basically as
requires
fast as
King
his
to
champion
get
could.
on one, so this is the first step.
And then Renekton is going to unlock this, and then
As
it's going to
okay,
go
here
into a
comes
spot where he cannot
KT
do anything with it.
with
That
the
is an
Temper
interesting
Blade. This is
interaction.
in a really
Uh,
unfortunate spot there as he gets
now
on the
they
wall,
just
but
immediately
still
go
got the
over and
activate.
can
So
take the
here
Baron.
he goes,
Kuro
and
can
that's going to
play
be his
bodyguard
run,
on
and
this
KT
side.
immediately will go on to this Baron.
So everything is going great for KT, and nothing is
Goes
going
down
well
relatively
for
easy.
Afrika. I mean, they're maybe going to be able to go get a dragon in. Nope, not even,
Once
because
they
it's
get
a
the
minute.
Baron,
Not.
they're gonna have more than enough time to reset
I
right
don't
to
know
the
what
bottom
I don't know what I read there that I thought.
that
Oh, of
one up
course, Afrika might be able to
themselves
get the
bring
dragon,
themselves to
but
almost full point. They're just so far
a
ahead.
minute away from that dragon means that KT are just going to beeline it straight over. They're gonna
It's
put
hard to
some
imagine how Afrika
offensive
could
vision
actually
down
lose this.
and
And I think the
maybe some
only
defensive vision
realistic
around
way
the
is
or neutral
somehow
vision around the
Gragas gets
river
a
and then take
multi-man
it
ultimate, and then
pretty much
Renekton
for free.
pops off,
'Cause
and then they win a 5 versus 4. So even in this replay, I mean, Volibear, he finds his way on top of Ezreal. Hammer comes down by Jace. They immediately convert into the Baron.
Deucin is, it's got my vote. Although I guess Kuro is 4-0-3, so we do like our KDAs here, the POG voters. So you may be able
So
to
they have established
this time around,
their
regardless,
vision,
gonna look at it.
but
Well,
Freaka Freaks look like they might be willing to contest. I obviously think that they're going to lose if they do. They don't even get a an attempted smite, but then they're going for the 5v5. Smeb is actually, or not Smeb, aiming is on the other side. Smeb was also on the other side. They were kind of free shooting in. It ends up being 1 for 0 for KT. I don't know, it's kind of interesting that that went, it almost went as well as a Freaka Freaks want it to. We just look here. Mystic is just, like, he's unable to dodge that. It's just locked right on to Mystic, but
the rest of them are just running away. And KT now with 2 Mountain Drakes on top of
I have no idea why you
the
teleport there. You
base.
I mean,
could wait for
they
this
did manage
to come into the
pick up
tower. It's
Gragas
fine.
right there. Kuro's still down there in bottom. Dread now having to run for the hills. And the other thing that you can mention is the base levels on the side of KT. They're so much higher. 2 levels in AD carry, 1 in mid, 1 in top lane. And in jungle, I mean, Bard's even up 2 or not jungle.
So there's just kind of systematically tearing down
the level
the
lead
towers.
in addition to the double mountain, in addition to the infernal dragon. It is just so oppressive right now.
KT should
for this
back up.
enemy team
What?
of Afrika to
KT
deal
should
with.
back up.
It's very
Uh,
difficult to imagine
and then
outside of a
the
multi-man
top lane
Gragas
will move
ultimate with
slightly
Surf
into
as
them, and
well.
they can 5
Bard
they
ultimate
can
goes out.
as a 5-man
Afrika,
work
they
it
try to
down.
clump in and do something
If
there,
they're
but
really looking to get
the
this tier
damage
2,
output
which I
from
don't think they
Afrika is
necessarily
just
need to
so
do,
high.
but it's
Gragas
the only
tried
thing that
going
they
for
can
the
really
Summer
do
assassination himself.
other than
Jungle
just
pick up
farm
the
on
dragon,
every
wasn't
lane
able
with
to do
their
so.
regular lane assignments.
Yeah,
They're just
he's
going to
pretty
farm
far
in every
behind
lane
at
with
this
their regular
point.
lane assignments. That's fine.
Looks like
This is also a
he's
completely
gonna
fine
complete
play.
Zhonya's, I would imagine.
I mean, they still did have some Baron
This
buff
one,
left, which is why I thought that maybe
I
going
think
up
I'll
top
have
lane and then
more value than
pushing it
Banshee's Veil.
as
We'll
5.
see what he does
I
go
mean, you
and pick up
probably
as the
always get
Baron
tier 2 if you
pushes.
do that, but it's
Coming in now
uh,
on the side of KT, not really
it's not really that necessary. You don't need to do that.
push in top side. And, well, the Baron is actually gone, so it's really not going to actually get anything here.
So at the end of the day, I mean, they end up just kind of slowly building the tower, going back to where they were, and then maybe you're going to get a couple shots in. Maybe she actually gets this? She doesn't get this.
Mostly using the Baron buff to take out
She gets it.
the
Wow.
Mountain Drake.
Alright, never mind. You know what? Forget it.
Just try to
Obviously, it doesn't even matter. Obviously, that was the perfect use of the Baron.
Afrika, at this point in time, they're gonna try to just wave clear over and over and over, wait for Baron, try to take a miracle team fight, and then try to salvage the game from there. But they're down 8,000 gold. The resistances on the side of KT, especially because some of their champions or even building resistances. So you're getting a free 12% for free, and in 2 minutes,
So
it's gonna
how does this
contest.
game go from here? I'm pretty
It's
sure
gonna
you
build
just
into, and
contest
once they have
Mountain,
that,
and then you
it's
contest
out of
Baron,
bounds
right?
for Tom.
They're
Yeah.
actually both spawning at the exact same time. I mean, if you're a Freak of Freaks, you really just have to go for
Ready to go.
some sort of amazing outplay, because I mean the gold lead is just oppressive. And if you're KT, you're just setting up for Dragon. So they should be transferring all of their wards into from here into this side of the map, because this is where the more relevant objective is, because it will provide them Mountain Soul and make them invincible.
Go for the Baron, or maybe they could even get both. We'll have to wait and see.
And they are doing that right now. As you can see, Jace is able to move freely into the side lane. Bard, the three from the mid lane are coming in and pressing onto the bottom side jungle. They're maybe catching people out, or they just win the game without having to do that with a fight here. Yeah, they just win the game without having to. Ah, no.
And here come the stopwatch. Whoa! Miss blast from Ben, and this is all but over, guys. I mean, Afrika.
Keen somehow dominuses, and then was he not there the whole time?
Behind, and he just gets pummeled by the combo.
Where was Keen? Oh, he walked in, Dominus attacked Bard, didn't do even half of his health, and then walked away.
Trying their best to do what they can.
That's unfortunate.
Even gonna slow down Keen here. Only 2 members left. Could look for the inhibitor now, as Susan doing a bit of emoting in the mid lane.
And it looks like what they're gonna do is just go for the double inhibitor, I'm assuming. I would be very surprised if they actually elect to end. I think ending would require Afrika to donk off. And so we'll see what ends up happening. If they want to take it super careful.
This is a very large set of waves. I think they can just end. Pretty sure they can just end.
And actually they're pushing quite fast. You see that Dread is going to get zoned off here, but this is where it gets a little bit sticky, as Keen is doing a great job. He is very tanky. Kuro getting low. And now KT have to say, okay, just hit the turret, hit the Nexus, maybe we can burst it down.
Okay, then they're going to go for another fight here.
Really awkward fight. Fly is going to go down. As the front line of KT still quite strong. The stun comes in on the Keen, as well as the Trap.
They're just still too strong in order to win the game. Oh, Mystic is maybe able to do something. Probably not. Yep, and the game's over. Alright, so, in conclusion. The big issues for me was the early pathing by Dread. I think that's very weird. I had to, like, it took me so long to wrap my mind around it. Because my general assumption is it has to be being done for a reason. That's how I like to think about professional games in Premier Regions, because it obviously is working. There's a reason that they're doing it. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I try to like wrap my mind and say, all right, this is, maybe it's gonna work this way, and they're gonna be able to do this, and they might be able to test both crabs. It ends up being he just gets the crab, doesn't do his wolves. Then there's a fight bottom because of how, I mean, he should have just been able to clear up his camps without having to invade. I don't think that was necessary. Pretty sure also he could have done the raptors into blue into his crab, and then turned around for Gromp and wolves, gone back, gone to Krugs, spawned, the raptors would spawn by the time he's back, so he'd be able to do that. Maybe do something mid lane, then he could do the other camps as they're spawning. I think that's much more efficient. It also would put him in line with the dragon timer. But instead he does fairly weird movement, and I mean then this happens, which is also problematic. If he's, can you ever prevent this from happening? I suppose we have to look at the prevention has to come from the bottom lane. It can't come from, I mean, Tucson, or not Tucson. Dread, I don't think is responsible for the position of his bottom lane here.
Scuttle Crab. This is a very ineffective jungle path by Dread. He's sort of all over the place, and he's not getting any of his really key camps respawned. He's gonna maybe go for a gank here, but Kuro really has to blunder for this to work.
Yeah, this is this gank is gonna look a lot better. Let's just say that. We got the teleport coming in, but Mystic having his shift and Mono getting not. Oh, finally he's gonna take him down. Here comes the rest of everybody. Keen gonna get caught out here.
Okay. I mean.
And Mono getting not. Oh, finally he's gonna take him down. Here comes the rest of
blunder for this to work.
Yeah, this is this gank is gonna look a lot better. Let's just say that. We got the teleport coming in, but Mystic having his shift and Mono getting not. Oh, finally he's gonna take him down.
I think you just have to attribute this to being a good gank by Bono, because at the end of the day, I mean, all of this didn't need to happen. All the shenanigans didn't need to happen. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Bono always gets a kill there. It's just that there was bonuses given on top of it. Because I don't even know with... Let's assume... Okay, if he doesn't go for... Doesn't go for the invade on the Gromp. Doesn't invade on Gromp. Goes red. He could go red, wolves, Gromp blue, into bottom scuttle. Does he have enough time for that? It's the timing that really gets me, because I don't know exactly how the efficiency on Graves is. And like me assuming that he can do something like, this path is potentially just fantasy. But it would protect his obviously pushing bottom lane, so maybe that's just the play he has to go for. It would also prevent KT from knowing where he is, which might probably doesn't actually change how Volibear. It might actually. I wonder what the play is if Volibear doesn't get disturbed. Right, he just goes. He does a full clear to Raptors red, Scuttle Krugs back. And then after on that back, after Graves does the scuttle, he'll do Raptors, Rugs, Raptors, recall, which would be around. Then he'll go back to his top side, where he'll go Gromp Wolves and be able to contest the Dragon. Is that the most efficient? I have to look at that. I have to look into that. The second by seconds are really important in this pathing, I think. If we're trying to look at this optimally. Obviously, after the invade, I think that's really not super great. And then he has to... I feel like the invade is just really bad. Unless he knows that Volibear is not on this side. If Volibear's not on this side, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm done with that topic. But the big thing, I think, I mean, they kind of flubbed the potential dive there. I mean, he Reaction got 6, so it's fine. There's a lot of wasted time on the Volibear. But the really big thing, and the thing that really ruins this game, because sure, it's still in KT's favor, and then they keep making these kinds of plays. Graves is able to push them away, but the real problem for me that causes Afrika's downfall
Get a bit angry and start to play an overdrive.
is the Herald.
Doesn't look too happy there in that,
I think that KT shouldn't have. It should have just been taken. I have no idea what they're thinking. I feel like Jace can stay. Doesn't need to wait around.
With that kind of
Because the Herald is another, at this point,
what?
helps Freaka Freaks claim the next dragon potentially, as well as take your mid tier 1, which can be pretty dangerous, as well as also inject them with gold that would even them out. And evened out, I think they're in a really good spot at 1 item, 2 and 1.5, 2 items. So it depends. Depends on how valuable, I guess, you think the teleport is, because I feel like that's the only real resource you're wasting, right? If you're going for that the Herald. In any case, a Freaker Freak's getting the Herald is fine.
Very big L. Love it.
Thanks, L.
Yeah.
He's moving fast.
We move forward.
And Mountain's coming up in a minute and a half. Well.
So they end up losing that tower, but then it's using the Herald on top side. I think is a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Popped up here in top lane, and I mean this will crash into the top tier too, but realistically, this is going to be the strongest point that a Freak is at for the next several minutes. I mean, Renekton almost has the Black Cleaver complete. You have Oblivion Orb, Protocol.
I mean, you're gonna. I don't know. I feel like you have to be willing. I feel like if you spawn it mid, you say, all right, fly, push in the wave, come down for mid lane, so for Dragon Contest, spawn the Herald mid, get a charge off, and then use that position and priority to be on the Dragon. Then I think you can fight this. I think you're willing to fight this. I don't know if it's necessarily ideal in terms of items for Afrika, but I don't know if they're ever going to be in an ideal state ever after this point, right? As Ellis is mentioning. I'm not entirely sure when they're supposed to kind of go over what KT are able to do. Also, we have to also think about we have to think about the value of the Mountain Dragon into champions like Jace, into Silas, Caitlyn minimally, because she's always gonna get a Last Whisper, but I guess it could make her get an earlier Last Whisper. I'm not sure if that's gonna be the case. She actually ends up going attack speed anyway, so she does have her kind of trough mid game on 2 items. I think you have to be willing to fight this as a Freaka. Yeah. I think you have to be willing to fight this. And maybe I'm just saying that because they didn't and it ended up going really poorly. But I think that it's perfectly okay to go for the fight. Because they had the Herald, they had the potential to claim mid tier 1 or the Dragon, or both. So I think it could have been better, and obviously it devolves from here because then they get continuously picked off, and there's just no real way for Freaky to come back. So I've been Rojo. This was fun, and yeah, bye. Never. Okay.